Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about a terrible Bears Cowboys game, talking about the Bulls season, the Blackhawks season, and maybe a little World Series. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is here. It is upon us. So make sure you head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing?
Okay. Honestly, okay. I'm not angry or super bummed out about the game we saw in Dallas this afternoon. I'm looking at this as a game where we say, you know what? We're going to take the positives from this game, aka Justin Fields and what the offense did, and we're going to use that as the main focal point. Because I think today, nothing was perfect, any aspect of it, but I felt like we witnessed a game that we're going to witness a lot the rest of the year, and less of a systematic issue, but more of just the talent gap completely overmatched the Bears today. This was never a good matchup for the Bears. They were able to do things I didn't expect, but when you see a defense get just absolutely mauled like that, it's never fun. But Dallas is a much better team than the Bears. They have a much better offense than the Bears. And, the Bears did just trade away Robert Quinn. And priority number one in this season is developing Justin Fields. And we are seeing progress with that. It feels like at this point, defense is just, it kind of is what it is. I don't like seeing them give up over 40 points. If they were a contending team, we would be having a much different discussion right now. But I just, the talent gap is very big, and this is kind of the reality we're in. So maybe I'm just accepting of that finally.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that I'm dealing with this. You never like to see your team get blown out, but I've said it all along that if the Bears get blown out and you see progress from Justin Fields and progress from the offense, I can deal with it. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, this is a rebuilding team. We all know it's a rebuilding team. It's the issue is we have a talent gap. And I expected the defense to be better, not just in this game overall. And we've seen pretty much the defense be pretty solid, at least in the second half, for most of the games. This game, you saw an Achilles heel. They can't stop the run.
No.
Neither team could stop the run. I have a friend who's a diehard Cowboys fan, and he's like, hey, sorry about today. And he's like, but man, you really highlighted a glaring gap in our defense. We can't stop the run. And he's like, I'm scared that in the playoffs, teams are going to take this game as the blueprint and how to beat us.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important aspect of going deep in a playoff run is being able to stop the run because you don't want the other team controlling the clock against you. And today, in terms of the Bears defense, it's not only that they gave up a lot of runs, is that they gave up a lot of big chunk plays. I mean, you saw the one run was what, a 55-yard touchdown, something like that, when they had him in the backfield and he was able to go all the way for a touchdown. And I mean, it was pretty obvious early on it was going to be a long day for the defense when a QB sneak turned into a 25-yard run for Prescott. That's just, that right there is a bad side for your run defense on the day. And listen, nothing the defense did outside the pick by Eddie Jackson was really worth highlighting. I mean, they had the Bears defense off balance, out of place. They opened up the holes for the running backs. They found the seams in the secondary. And they got big chunk plays. They didn't dink and dunk you to death. They moved down the field quickly on you.
Yeah, the runs were bad. Roquan Smith was a ghost. They picked on Kindle Vildor.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. I mean, I just said like last episode that he'd been having a decent season. Like, is he somebody that you're going to build around? Obviously not. But for a rebuilding team, you're like, all right, he's been much better than we've ever seen him before. And the Cowboys watch game film and they're like, you know what? We are just going to attack Kindle Vildor. And they did. And it wasn't always even a bad coverage. It was somewhere there's just an amazing throw. But
and there's that talent gap issue right there. I mean, it's not like Kindle Vildor was getting roasted by bums. You were getting roasted by, Pro Bowl caliber players out there.
Yeah. And then on the defensive line is, like you said, first game without Robert Quinn. And, I don't know how much he would have helped in this game, but, still your defensive line is in massive needs of talent gap. So, I mean, the defensive line, you need major upgrades. I'm honestly at the point, and this is not tearing down Roquan Smith. I don't see the point in re-signing Roquan Smith because for the money you're going to spend on him, he's not the piece that you're missing to make your team to the next level. I would rather take that money, and sure, we have plenty of money to go around, but do you want to tie it up with a guy who is not playing at an elite level?
Well, it's kind of hard because the annoying thing is that we've seen very on and off. It feels like one week he looks very disappointing. The next week he looks like regular Roquan. It's been very up and down, but you want consistency when you're going to pay the amount of money that you're thinking you're going to have to pay to keep him. Yeah, especially for an off the ball linebacker.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was about to say. $20 million for an off ball linebacker. He can't be off and on. He has got to be on all the time. Like if you watch, when Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs played, those two guys were always on. On.
Yes.
And that's the kind of play that you expect to see from a off-ball linebacker that's going to be record-breaking numbers. And Roquan is just not doing that. And is he playing bad? Some games have, but some games, there's been a few games he's been excellent. It's just, you got to see that consistency for somebody.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you look at it, just beyond Roquan, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the linebacking core. I mean, we mentioned, the front end of the defense. It needs a lot of work. And I believe right now, Jaquan Brisker, your safety, is the leader in sacks on the team right now.
That's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I know that a Matt Eberflus team isn't necessarily going to be a high blitzing team, one that's going to record a lot of sacks, but you don't want to see that either with your leading sack guy being a safety.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's if you're a blitzing team, like if you're a big blitzing team and you're like, okay, I guess I can live with that, but you just really can't, not on the cover 2 defense. You've got to be getting pressure on the quarterback, and it's just got to be with the front 4, and you're not getting that.
And today's game really showed you that you need elite personnel to handle a cover 2 defense that's going to take you to the playoffs.
Yeah, so we've got to greatly improve at the defensive line, and we need another cornerback. We need to overhaul the linebacking core. Mm-hmm. Brandon Morrow's fine, but you need more linebacker help, and to say you need linebacking help when you have a guy that's demanding a $20 million a year contract, that should tell you what you need to do right then and there.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much work to be done on that end. And I think that it does put some things in perspective. It kind of shows you that we obviously focus on Justin Fields, what's around him, the line, the wide receivers. We'll get to that. But it really does put in perspective how much work this Bears team does need going forward. And it is comforting knowing that they have all this cap space going forward. And, maybe we'll see what happens before the deadline. Maybe you pick up another pick or 2 in a trade. I don't know. But the resources are going to be there to help restock this. But there's so much to be restocked. It's going to be a challenge for Ryan Poles. There is a lot on this team that is going to need work before they're legit. I mean, you can look at pretty much almost every position and you're like, yeah, we need more there. We need more there. You need more O-line. You need more wide receivers. You need more defensive linemen, linebackers, cornerbacks. It's everywhere. And the defense itself, on the surface, the numbers going in today in terms of points given up was not bad. But you look at all the other things that go with that defense. They give up a lot of yards on the ground. They showed that today, and it made them pay. And, if you're able to find those seams in the secondary, they can get exposed in a cover 2 defense. So there's a lot of work to be done here.
Yeah, the Bears defense today, well, the Bears team gave up the most points any team has scored in the NFL this year.
Really?
Yes. And granted, one of those scores was on
fumble return,
which, man, everybody's going to get a loaf on that one.
That was really, really a gut punch. Because, I mean, look, if that doesn't happen and the Bears score, do the Bears win? No, I don't think they do. I don't think that there was a situation where the Bears were going to win with the way their defense was playing. They had no answer. They had absolutely no answer, but could have been a little bit of a different game.
Yeah. I mean, at one point it was pretty darn close. You couldn't get those stops, and then to turn the ball over. It's frustrating. And, we're talking defense. There's still so many gaps there that need to be filled. But honestly, I think you're silly to not attack your rebuild by adding weapons for Justin Fields.
You have to.
You watch all the other games, even the highlights. The difference in having a number 1 wide receiver makes on your team. Like AJ Brown from the Eagles, there was a throw and he took it away from 2 defenders to score a touchdown. Took it away. Like, you know how many more touchdowns the Bears would have this year if they had a true number 1 wide receiver, just on some of the throws that were made in games that either got knocked away or taken away from the wide receiver because they couldn't go up and get it. Just, I mean, nothing different other than replacing who the receiver was. Monte Pettis is not anywhere close to a number one wide receiver. And, you replace him with somebody. It's just, this team is in that much better of a position. You've got to add another wide receiver. You've got to add a playmaking tight end. We've had Cole Kmet here for several years now, and he's just not the playmaker.
No, he's not George Kittle, that's for sure.
I mean, go out and get Mike Gesicki. Just go out and get him. He's going to be a free agent. Add a wide receiver. Like, the offensive line, I don't think you need that much. I mean, I think this offensive line that we saw today wasn't that bad.
It wasn't bad. I'm not going to say it was good or great, but it wasn't bad.
It is. I was expecting a whole lot worse.
So was I. I was actually somewhat impressed at times the way they handled it.
Is especially considering that your left guard and center combination are fill-ins. I think Riley Reif played pretty decently. I still think David Kaplan is dum-dum, and Tevin Jenkins has been our best offensive lineman.
Yeah, he's been good.
I think he's blossoming into a very, very good offensive guard. And I think Braxton Jones is going to be a good left tackle. Great left tackle, I don't know. He might end up just being serviceable, but I think he's a guy. I think he's a guy that you can keep. And Whitey Coat Hair will be back. And, before I talked about after this season, cutting his contract would be financially doable. Honestly, you look at it, at $12 million for a starting guard is not that terrible. You probably keep him. And so you fill that left guard spot. You've got both guard spot. You got the left tackle spot. You need a center and a right tackle. That's a lot easier management. But, your line, especially against that Dallas defense, which has just been eating teams alive, you played okay. I mean, sure, there was some times where they blew you up, and they had quite a bit of sacks, but it didn't
lose you the game.
It didn't lose you the game, and it didn't stop you from scoring the most points you've scored in a long time. You scored 29 points. You were able to do things. It didn't alter the way you played the offense. When you go back and look at that Browns game from last year, that altered everything you did.
Right.
This did not. Sure, you game planned around things, and you made sure that Micah Parsons didn't beat you, but you were able to play around that strength, and then you use your strength of running the ball in that second half. I was okay with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was going to be a bit worse than that, and they were able to hold their own for the most part. I just want to go back to the receivers really quick, because I want to expand on what you said, because I made a point on Twitter earlier. I said the Bears really need a receiver that can just beat you one-on-one, because there were several times when Justin Fields threw a ball to the end zone or downfield that was well contested, but, tough catch, but it was incomplete. Elite teams have those wide receivers that say, wow, that was a really insanely hard catch and a great play by the defender, but he still came down with it. The Bears lack that. I mean, listen, you can look at guys like Equanimeous St. Brown and Velus Jones Jr., and you say, okay, they're gadget guys. You use them in shorter plays, but you can't expect gadget guys like that to win battles one-on-one down the field. I'm not saying getting separation. I mean one-on-one contested balls in the air, jump balls that need to come down and be caught. They're just those guys don't have that skill set, be that type of receiver. Sure, you could use them on screen plays, short plays. They have decent speed. You're able to make plays work like that if you want to eat some yards. But man, you need that number one receiver. You say, I'm throwing deep. You're one-on-one with the defender. I want you to go up and get it wherever I put it. You know, they don't make the difficult catch, and you rely on your quarterback to be accurate, but there comes a time where you need them to make those difficult catches. You need them to overcome the right things that the opposing defense does. That just is not on the team right now. They don't have that, and they need it.
I'll agree with you, but I'm not going to throw Velus Jones Jr. under the bus yet. I saw today that he has legit speed, and it's not that like college or track speed where you can't apply it to football. He's actually a banger. You know, he'll take a hit. I would like to see them implement him more in the offense to see what we have. But looking at this roster is Dante Pettis, you know, fine for whatever right now, but shouldn't be on the team next year. Equanimous St. Brown shouldn't be on the team next year. You should have a stud number one. Mooney should be your number two. I'm not even hating on N'Keal Harry yet. We haven't seen much from him, but like I'm not hating on him yet. I want to wait and see. Velus Jones, I want to see what he can do. I want to see them implement him. I would like to see Harry and Velus Jones phased in more, and St. Brown and Pettis phased out more to see. Maybe all four of those guys need to go, but I mean I can definitely write off Dante Pettis. Shouldn't be on this roster next year. Can't be on this roster next year.
Yeah, and I don't want to write off Velus Jones Jr. as a useful part of the offense. I'm just saying he's not that guy that's going to win those jump balls.
No, maybe not, but I mean, what if he's able to be a Tyreek Hill type guy?
I'd love that.
Like that's a possibility. You're right. They need a guy that can go up and get a ball. Like they need a guy like that.
I'm talking like a Calvin Johnson or a Randy Moss, where you're like, you know what? You're going to make a great play on me. I'm going to make this catch in the end zone on a deep throw.
I mean, you know, every team would want a guy like that, but there's not that many of those. Those are Hall of Fame guys, but
no, they're a dime a dozen.
But they do need a legit guy that will go up and take a ball, and they need to be able to have receivers that can make plays. When Dante Pettis is just not a guy. Equanimous St. Brown is just not a guy. They're guys on the roster, but they're not the guy.
They're filling the role for the time being.
I think you could live with having N'Keal Harry at the bottom of your wide receiver rotation next year. Like he's a guy that clearly has talent, just doesn't have the speed to do a lot of things. But you know, he's low cost and he's a good blocker. He'll play special teams. I'm okay with it. Velus Jones has that speed. You can't teach that. Just got to work him in the offense. He's got to get into the offense. You can't have him get one touch a game. Just can't do it.
Right. No, I agree.
But you need two wide receivers. I think you need to draft somebody high, and I think you need to bring in somebody that's a decent veteran.
I agree. I mean, I just think that there's going to be a lot more that can be opened up with Justin Fields when you have those types of guys. And I like the fact that today, Justin Fields, I mean, you know, he was able to connect nicely with Darnell Mooney on a few instances, and I thought that was important.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see Darnell Mooney be able to get more touches. I think having another wide receiver there helps him get those touches.
I agree. Exactly. Like, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think Darnell Mooney is a good 2 or a 3. And I think that having another guy in there, a number 1, you'll be able to kind of balance things more a bit.
Running back, I honestly don't see David Montgomery in the future. I like David Montgomery. I think that today is going to put him in the doghouse. I think they, before, during the mini bye before the Patriots game, you saw them, mention that he was going to lose some touches, and him putting the ball on the ground in a bad way I think he's going to go in the doghouse a bit. I think you're going to slowly see Khalil Herbert be the shifted feature back. I don't know if David Montgomery is on this team next year.
I just don't think so. I don't think so. And I like him too. I always have. I don't think you're going to give a second contract to Dave Montgomery. I don't see it. I think that there is a possibility that the Bears are going to be maybe considering options to say, maybe we'll do a minimum, but I don't think it's actually going to happen. I'm very weary about bringing back running backs on second years unless they're absolutely elite. And David Montgomery's good. He's good, solid, but he's not in prime Adrian Peterson or Derrick Henry.
Absolutely. Agreed. But in this game, the offense was able to do some nice things. I mean, they were able to run the ball, and a lot of it was Justin Fields. I mean, he had 60 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest takeaway from this game is I think we realized Justin Fields is a dude.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing improvement week after week. We're seeing him do things that we've wanted to see him do. I really, really liked the fact that he was able to throw multiple touchdown passes today. The throw to Cole Kmet was perfect. That was great to see. Not only a passing touchdown like that, but a passing touchdown to Cole Kmet, getting him involved. That was great to see.
Yeah, and when you start giving him weapons, his legs in the red zone are going to be such a weapon.
Mm-hmm. We saw him run for another touchdown today. That's exactly what I like to see. You get in the red zone, you roll him out, you give him that option to run, and you run with it.
Yeah, he's becoming a dude. Watch the first couple of games of the season when he ran. Watch how hesitant he was when he was running.
Mm-hmm. Now he just takes off flawlessly.
Now he's going. And I don't want him to be a running quarterback. But this team, they have to do what it is they have to do to win games now. And you're going to see him transition more when they get weapons, but he's willing to take shots down the field. It's just, you don't have anybody to take the top off the ball. I would like to see them try those big plays, like the one where he just missed that long bomb.
Yeah.
Why not Velus Jones? That guy is a speed demon. Let him get out there. Throw that to him.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, he's got a good arm. He's starting to see things better. He's not running scared. He's running with purpose. I think there's still some things he's got to work on. I think it's a mental thing where he still throws swing passes poorly. But the ability to see the pass rush, avoid the pass rush, and is getting so much better. And you saw him throw a ball away today, which is good. Don't take
Yes,
that
I was
sack.
just going to bring that up.
So yeah, I the biggest takeaway from this game is the Bears got crushed, but Justin Fields is the dude.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what most of us are trying to take away from this. And I think a lot of people are. And it's not feeling forced either. Like, legitimately, we're seeing some good things here. And I feel like we're seeing a bit more confidence in him. I mean, these last few games are not easy. To go into New England and then go to Dallas, that is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and we're starting to see in this league that the way that running quarterbacks are a way to break these defenses. And we've got one. We've got a quarterback that can run. And it's just getting him weapons. So honestly, the trade deadline is, we're recording this Sunday night. The trade deadline is Tuesday, late afternoon. I would not be sad if the Bears went out and made a trade for a player that they can extend and have long-term, like a Chase Claypool.
It would be interesting if they did. I'm curious to see how aggressive Ryan Poles is in terms of just shopping some guys. I mean, I tweeted earlier, I said, I wouldn't hate it if Ryan Poles kind of was more aggressive with some of the defenders. If you're not one of the rookies or Jalen Johnson, maybe you are a little more aggressive with shopping some of these guys at the deadline. What if you look at, I'm not saying I want Eddie Jackson gone, but do you consider looking at Eddie Jackson and saying, maybe there is an opportunity to get some value here? There might not be a market for him. There might not be a high offer. And I still think he could play a big role for this defense going forward. But, it doesn't hurt to at least shop around, see what's out there, because you might be able to pounce on something if you have an opportunity to stock up on picks and, find something there with a trade. I think you at least got to consider it, right? There's obviously going to be guys who are off the board. You're not trading Brisker. You're not trading Johnson. You're not trading Gordon. But, maybe you're a little more aggressive with some of the other guys, maybe even Roquan Smith. You say, what, let's see what the trade wire looks like. And if there's nothing there, don't force anything.
Yeah, Roquan's a tricky situation because you don't want to let him go for nothing. I guess you could get the compensatory pick, but you won't get that until the 2024 draft. So, that's not helping you today. If you trade him now, or the other, these are the options you have with him. One, you keep him all season long and you let him walk for nothing and get the compensatory pick. Option two, you keep him all year long and try to extend him. Option three, you keep him all year long. You put the tag on him and then try to trade him off the tag. Option four, you trade him now. And I think if you're the Bears, you go, okay, what do we think he'll get in a long-term contract if we let him go? What's that compensatory pick look like? And then it's, what does that pick getting it for this coming draft versus next draft? How does that play into our thing? Sometimes it's, $20 today is more important than $50 next year because you're starving now and need to buy a sandwich.
Right.
And so you got to weigh all these things. So if you're not out there shopping Roquan Smith, even if you don't plan to trade him, if you're not out shopping him, then you're not doing your job right.
You're right. Exactly.
You've got to at least see what teams are thinking about, because that's going to help you in a lot of ways. If teams just have no interest, like, nah, then you're probably not going to franchise tag him and try to trade him off the tag because you're not going to get anything.
For an off the
But-
ball guy, no.
Yeah, but if you're like, oh man, nobody, nobody is interested, you could put the low tag on him where you have the right of refusal and try to bring him back. But you sort of gauge what people have interest in him right now, how that's going to play out for his long-term contract. Because honestly, if you could get Roquan Smith for $10 million a year, all right, you keep him. It's just not 20. 20 is a lot of money.
Yeah, double that. I mean, that is a lot of money. And even though you have a lot to spend, that's still a lot of money.
Is Greg Gabriel is somebody that I have, like, I get he's been around the league a long time and, he has a lot of insight. Sometimes he drives me crazy with what he says, but he said something I 100% agree with today is you saw Jacksonville spend a lot of money and they didn't spend, and spending a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. The Buffalo Bills spend a lot of money. They're an elite team. The elite teams will spend a lot of money. Jacksonville did not spend the money wisely, and that's how you get into cap trouble.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you talk about smart spending in baseball in a team that doesn't have a cap. It means everything in the NFL.
Yeah. So you've got to make sure you're spending wisely. Just because you have $125 million to spend, does that mean you're going to spend it all? No, but spend it wisely. Don't just go out and just throw money around like, it's not important, because you'll quickly get into a bad situation. You've got to structure contracts right. You've got to sign the right players that aren't going to be busts or injured. It's not a free for all. It's not, oh, Bears have $125 million, problems fixed. No, you should be smart about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, think about it. How many teams really win the offseason with free agency? It's so much about the draft, the scheme, the coaching. And yet free agency is important. Bringing guys in, the right guys, is important. And it's not easy in NFL free agency because guys cost a lot of money in free agency. Even guys who are like middle of the road, they're going to cost you a decent amount of money at a lot of premium positions. Finding the right guys to spend on, it's not easy, but free agency alone doesn't typically fix a team. There's so much more to it. It's not like, say, baseball, where like you're one big starting pitcher away, you sign him, and then things kind of come together. You don't see a lot of the teams that spend big in free agency necessarily get that Super Bowl title. Not trying to downplay it, saying it's not important. What I'm just saying is you can't just rely on it. Drafting the right guys and spending the right money in the right places, and maybe even making a trade or two. I mean, that's all factoring into this.
Absolutely. And honestly, looking at what the free agency market is going to look like, or starting to shape up what it's going to look like, there's not an elite wide receiver that's going to hit the market that you're like, oh, that's the guy. We're going to go hard after that guy. You're probably going to have to use your first pick on a wide receiver to get that impact guy, unless you're willing to make a big trade. And I don't know if Ryan Poles is willing to do that. Give up, 2 firsts or whatever it costs to get an elite wide receiver. I don't know if he's willing to do that. I think he's going to try to draft somebody and build that, and, maybe get another number 3 type wide receiver, and just bring up the whole wide receiver core from the middle rather than the top end, but it's it's going to be interesting because they definitely need to add weapons. That's the one thing we're taking away is whenever they show all 22 or uh over the offensive line type views, when there's a sack or a play breakdown, you look and there's just nobody open.
Right.
And sometimes you look and like a Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady will force one in, but that's because they have confidence in there. When you have like a guy that's legit, like a Mike Evans, you can take those shots because they're a guy that it's not a 50-50 ball. It's a 75-25 ball or an 80-20 ball. They get those.
Hell, remember the first few years of Alshon Jeffrey here?
Yeah.
That you could do that with him. He made some insane catches in 2013.
That's what having a guy. I mean, maybe Mike Evans is the guy. If Tom Brady walks, maybe Mike Evans walks too. And so that's my priority is bringing in a number one wide receiver and more weapons.
Do you know the significance of December 6th, 2020?
December 6th, 2020.
The Bears played a game. What was significant about what happened in that game? I don't know if you'll be able to guess it. But when I tell you, it might not be surprising if you can't guess it.
Is it the last time the Bears scored this many points?
It was the last time Cole Kmet got a touchdown before today.
Oh, oof.
Yeah.
So 2 years, almost.
Almost 2 years, yes. And it's not all Cole Kmet's fault. Obviously, you need to be targeted a certain amount of times, but it was good that he finally was able to record a touchdown today. And again, it was a really great play.
Yeah, you got to work him in. You got to work him in pass catching. I think they have him a lot blocking. I think you've got to get him in more as a safety valve for Justin Fields. I think this offense is, if you're Luke Getsy, as you get to be a more experienced play caller, because he's inexperienced, as these games go on, as you get more experience, I think you start having to mold the offense around Justin Fields. What is he good at? What do we have to do to make him better? Where is he on these plays when they break down? Where is he looking? Let's make or have guys go to those spots. Try to get tight end more involved. Like the tight ends have just not really been involved. So it's I think that's the next part of the evolution is we know Justin Fields is the dude. Let's shape the offense around him and then bring in weapons that fit what we're trying to do for Justin Fields.
It's really important because if he's able to make this progression with what they have right now, imagine what they can do when they have weapons around him.
I mean, that's what it is, if a guy that has this much ability to run, and if you get him a wide receiver where they can throw to, that's, you're going to have a hell of an offense. If you gave him a Travis Kelce and a Tyreek Hill, suddenly you're like, uh-oh, this guy's a legit threat.
Yeah. And I think it'll make Luke Getsy's job easier too.
Yeah. But I think part of that is We all know this is not a good team. Let's evaluate the talent we have. We know, like I said, Dante Pettis, not a dude. Velus Jones, we have no idea. Get him in there more. Get him more touches. Get him more targets. See what he can do as a deep threat. We know who Darnell Mooney is, and they plan to keep him as part of the building block, which is good. If you add a Mike Evans with a Darnell Mooney, suddenly your wide receiver core is looking much better. You add a Mike Evans and a Darnell Mooney and one of those top wide receivers in the draft, suddenly then you're like, all right, now we're cooking with gas. But you've got to see what you have, though. Like, what if Velus Jones does turn out to be a solid wide receiver? I don't think he's going to be a number one type guy, but what if he's like a legit contributor? Like he's
a good number three.
Yeah, he is. What if he is a solid number three and a good deep threat? Like, it takes the top off the ball and make sure that they don't put an eighth man in the box. If you take that safety out of the box, imagine what that Bears running game is going to look like. Is just see Dante Pettis is not taking the top off the ball. Evaluate the talent you have. Evaluate it. We know Sam Mustipher stinks. What about Dieter Eiselen? We've seen good things from him in the preseason games. Is he better than Sam Mustipher? Put in Alex Leatherwood. What if he is the future right guard or right tackle? And you're like, oh man, suddenly that makes our life easier. All we need to do is get a center in here. And our offensive line is that much better. He's young. He was a stud at Alabama. He wasn't a stud at like Southeast Missouri State or Central Louisiana Tech. He was a stud at Alabama. That means he game in, game out, he played against top talent. Like, so work him in. He's back. He's on the active roster. He was the swing tackle. I want to see what he can do. Maybe long-term, he's the answer at the other guard spot. So I don't know. I want to see them work other guys in to see what we have. Because if we're not evaluating the whole roster, then what's the point? What are we serving from this year? Like, make this season have a value other than, oh, it's a process that we have to go through until we get full draft picks and $125 million.
When you have your future quarterback, you need to have something come out of it.
Yeah, make something count from this season. Work through that roster. See who can play a little bit, who can't. Because maybe Alex Leatherwood is not a guy that you can start, but maybe he's solid. He's a solid swing tackle. Okay, we know that. Maybe Larry Borum is not a starting caliber, but maybe he's the swing tackle. Maybe Dieter Eiselen is actually a pretty solid center, and he could be the center of the future, and we could part ways with Sam Mustipher. I don't know. There's a lot of things. Velus Jones, we need to learn more about. What about that other safety that we drafted in the 7th round? I want to see what he can do. Let players play. Put them in position. Maybe they stink, but then we know they stink. We have it on film. We've seen it, not just in practice, in games. That's what we need to evaluate with this team. So that way, when we go forward, all right, we have a better idea. All right, you know what? Not only do we need a lot of top talent, we need to churn the bottom of this roster to get better depth. Or maybe, hey, you know what? Our team wasn't very good at top talent, but we've got a heck of a lot of depth. We can keep a lot of these guys as our backups. And, I just need to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So overall, this game was not a fun one to watch. It was at least nice to see the Bears put up offensive numbers and see the Bears be able to move the ball. And sure, there was some dumb plays. There was one where there was a 3rd and 3, I think, and they did a handoff from the shotgun, and I think it was Herbert. He got stood up, but the offensive line, Tevin Jenkins in particular, just pushed the whole line and moved him over the first down marker.
Yes, that was a great play. Thank you for reminding me that.
And
I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I tweeted, I was like, while even though this was a successful play, I hated it. Like, just stop handing off from the shotgun. It's not that good. Just hand off from the eye or from a motion. Do something else.
Yeah.
But overall, like, it was nice to see. You did see some drives that you wish you could take back. I think there was the trick play that was really bad.
Yeah. I mean, if it would have been executed better, it would have worked, but it was just airmailed. He had room to run, so that just didn't work out so well. There was also one thing that I wish is when they got the interception at the end of the first half, they did take a shot to the end zone, but then you had 2 straight runs with 11 seconds left and kicking a field goal. Okay, you take the points, that's better than nothing, but it kind of felt like you were playing to take the points. Like when there was 11 seconds left and you did a little pitch to Komet and it like didn't get you anywhere. I'm like, in that spot, I would have taken another shot at the end zone.
I think I agree on the first one. The second one, I think that was just getting it in the center of the field.
Probably. I wish they would have taken another shot at some point.
Oh, absolutely. That first run, I would have liked to have seen them take a shot because you know what? When you look at that score, you have to be like, hey, we can't stop them. And think about the Philadelphia Patriots Super Bowl, where Nick Foles got MVP. Eagles were not stopping the Patriots. So what do? They just pulled out all the stops and they're like, all right, we're just going to have to outscore them. And they're like, Nick Foles, you got to be the man. Be Big D Nick. And they did. They did it. And that, I think at that point, the Bears should have realized, listen, we're not going to be able to stop that offense. Like, they just cut through us like hot knife through butter. Maybe we can slow them down a little bit, but we're not stopping them. We've got to score touchdowns. They should have just gone for it. And, I'm like, listen, I'm going to pause for a second and say that the ifs and buts I'm about to throw out would make, if they were all candy and nuts, it would be a wonderful Christmas. But if they score a touchdown there, if on the drive where David Montgomery fumbles, he doesn't fumble and they score a touchdown, this is a whole different ball game.
It is, yes.
Do they win? Probably not, but they make this a scary endeavor for the Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it changes a lot. It changes a lot. You think about plays like that. I mean, it was a big momentum killer having that fumble return for a touchdown.
Oh yeah. And the fact And it was a complete breakdown of the hits principle that nobody touched him.
Yeah, I mean, and you saw Justin Fields leap over him, and it's I don't want to harp on that one too much because it didn't make a difference in the game, but I do think there might be a little lesson right there. I also am glad that he didn't get railed and hurt. Justin Fields did on that play, but luckily it's not something we talk about that won or lost them the game, but I do think it is something to look at and be like, hey, we got to look at this kind of thing. We got to take care of these kinds of things. You got to play to the whistle. That's really important.
Absolutely. But it's an evaluation process. This team, you watch film, you go and you learn, you get better. It's you look at teams around the league and you're like, this could be a lot worse. I think Jags, that's a worse situation. Carolina, that's a terrible situation there. The Saints, bad situation. The Bears have life in them. And I think Moose Johnson said it at the end of the game that this team from game 1 to now is a much different team. And I think you're going to see them get better as the weeks go on. You might not see it in the score sheet. You may not see it on the scoreboard in the wins and loss columns, but I think you're going to see this team get better as they go.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
It's just not going to be fun always watching it. And I think as long as they keep taking the lumps and keep coming back, that's all there is to it. You take those losses, you stick with it. You don't quit. But I mean, I think the Broncos are in a worse situation. The Raiders are in a worse situation.
It's ugly. It's ugly in Vegas.
It is ugly. I think we're even in a better situation than the Steelers because I don't know if Kenny Pickett is the answer, but we know that Mitch Trubisky's not the answer. The Texans, that team, I don't know if you watched that game today.
I did not.
Ooh.
Glad I didn't.
Oh, that team, that team, other than the garbage minutes, I think it was like midway through the third quarter and the Texans had like 60 yards of offense.
Yikes.
It was real bad. Let's see. The Texans, including the garbage time, had a total of 161 yards of offense.
Yeah.
Davis Mills ended up with 152 yards passing. He had a 60-something passer rating. Their running backs only had 35 yards rushing. It was bad. That's a team in a bad situation. The Jags are in a bad situation. The Colts are in a bad situation. I don't think the Titans are in a very good situation, but things could be a heck of a lot worse for the Bears, regardless of the record.
Yeah, I mean, a few weeks ago, I was feeling a lot more down about everything, and I'll admit to it. I felt a lot more doom and gloom, but now I can at least see some of the light. And you could say, you know what? I feel better about this situation.
I mean, ask yourself, would you rather them win a lot more games in an ugly manner like that 49ers game, or lose a bunch of games but watch them grow as a team? I think that's where we're at. And it's I don't necessarily, it's kind of rhetorical, but it's, it's something, hey, what are we trying to gain this year? It's, the Giants are winning games, but that team's not good.
No, I mean, I think that they're well coached. They have some solid players, but they're going to find a little bit of a reckoning at some point. I think that they're not going to maintain the way they're playing.
Yeah. And you're like, do we want the Bears to be in that situation? Honestly, I think the ideal scenario is Bears get a top draft pick, but don't be a laughing stock.
Right.
Like you don't want to be like one of those top 3 teams and you're like, oof, those teams are so bad, regardless of who they get. No, we want the Bears to be like, you know what? We saw a lot of growth. This is a team that's going to take that pick and that money and just really turn it around in a quick fashion. Kind of like the Bengals did when they got Jamar Chase.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think at this point, having the good draft pick is going to be huge. And based right now on Tankathon, the Bears would be drafting 12th.
Got some work to do, guys.
And the Texans are going to have 2 top 10 picks.
Yeah. I mean, what? The Lions are number 1, right? They'd be number 1.
Right now, they would be pick 1 and pick 13.
Okay. Yeah.
So the non-wild card teams the order would be number 1 pick Lions, number 2 Houston, 3 Carolina, 4 Pittsburgh, 5 Jacksonville, 6 Vegas, 7 Texans by way of Cleveland, 8 Tampa, 9 Philadelphia, 10 Seattle, Philadelphia by way of the Saints, Seattle by way of Denver, 11 Arizona, 12 Chicago, 13 Lions via the Matt Stafford trade, 14 the Packers. What would be nice, and I don't think this is going to happen. I think the Bears are still aren't going to be that high, but if they got a high enough pick that they were able to trade back with a team that was desperate for a quarterback, and then they were able to get a second first round pick and still be able to get a solid first round pick this year, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, I wouldn't count on it happening, but that would be an interesting scenario.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Bears, when all said and done, they're going to be drafting somewhere in the 8 to 12 range.
Yeah, I could see it. They're not going to be down there with Detroit or
Texans,
Houston
or the Carolina,
unless Detroit beats us twice. But I don't know. We have Detroit coming in a few weeks. I mean, them and Houston look like they're going to be playing for that first pick. I mean, the Panthers too are pretty bad, so don't count them out on that front as well. The NFC South is so freaking bad. So the Falcons are now in first place, and I think they're 3-4.
They're 4-4.
4-4. Sorry, 4-4. They were 3-4 going in. They're 4-4 now. So yeah, that division's really, really bad. But you got a lot of mediocre blah teams and a few really bad ones. I mean, if I had to predict, I feel like the first overall pick, it's either going to be Detroit or Houston. I could see Detroit winning a few games going down the stretch because I think they're slightly better than their record shows. I'm not saying they're good, but I didn't think they were going to be this bad at this point of the season with the way their offense was working. So I think Houston might end up getting that, but you never know. It could still be Detroit. You really don't have much in Houston.
You know what's wild?
Sorry,
you were talking about the AFC South, and I was like, man, Tom Brady and the
NFC South.
Sorry, NFC South. Sorry, the Tom Brady and the Bucks are not very good, and Tom Brady is now getting divorced to come back to this terrible team. But did you know Tom Brady has been playing in this league for 20, 22, 23 years?
As long as I can remember watching football.
Yeah. And he's never lost to the Falcons. He's never lost to the Vikings. He's never lost to the Cowboys. He's never lost to the Bucks. He's never lost to the Patriots.
Well, if this is his last year, he can guarantee he never loses to the Bucks, right?
Yeah. But he's saying this might not be his last year.
Dude, hang it up, man. I know it's not all his fault. He's kind of gotten let down a little bit by some of his receivers, but even so, you're 45 years old. Man. How much longer does he think he can go?
I bet he goes to another team.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. I really wouldn't. I just still ask why.
I don't know. What else does he got at this point?
Well, not a wife anymore, I guess. I mean, you heard about the whole ultimatum thing, right?
Yeah, and he just didn't care.
Nah, I want to play football. And I will get really bad plastic surgery so I look like Skeletor. Yeah.
Tom Brady, are you nice? I'm not nice. But I mean, we endured this week, and you know, what do we have next? We have Dolphins next week.
Yeah, that could be an ugly one.
Yeah, man, why is our bye so late in the season?
I feel like the Bears bye is either super early or super late every year.
So here's our schedule before the bye: Dolphins, Lions, Falcons, Jets, Packers.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the Dolphins are probably going to be a loss, even if it kind of looks like this week where the offense does well. I don't think the defense is going to have an easy time stopping Tyreek Hill and that offense over there in Miami. And I know they're playing at home, but still, I think that might be a challenge. Think you can beat Detroit. Would you say the Falcons was after Detroit?
Yeah.
Detroit?
Yep.
That feels like a toss-up to me.
You could beat the Falcons. I
Beat the Falcons, yes.
Like,
I don't think it's guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't think they're good. None of these are guaranteed. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a guaranteed win left on the season, but there are winnable games because it depends which Bears team shows up. If the team that shows up against the Patriots comes out, all right, they could win. They could win a bunch of these games. If the team that, you know, certain weeks show, like against the Vikings or the Packers show up, then this is going to be a tough stretch. You know, it just sort of depends. Like, I mean, if you told me they beat the Dolphins, okay. I mean, the Dolphins aren't world beaters. They're not blowing people out. But yeah, if you told me the Bears lost, not surprised by that either. I would say there's probably 65-35 chance the Dolphins win. Lions, I would say 65-35 Bears win.
65-35.
That's what I'm going with right now. If Falcons, I would say
Oh, 65, 35%. At first I
Yeah.
thought you meant, I'm like,
Oh, no,
whoa.
not the score, not like the odds, like percent. Like I'd
Yeah,
say
yeah.
65% chance the Bears win. I'd say the Falcons game, probably toss up 50-50. The Jets, I would probably say 60-40 Jets. Packers are not good, but I think
They always beat you.
I think that's a 90-10 Packers. Eagles, I would say 99-1. That's an Eagles win. Bills 99-1 Bills. Lions says that's the one at home or on the road. That's the one on the road. So I'm going to say that's 60-40 Bears. Vikings, I'm going to say 70-30 Vikings.
Yeah, I can agree with those odds.
Yeah, so like none of them are like I mean, there's a couple games in there where I'm like, there's no way, but most of those games, the Bears have a reasonable shot of winning.
Yeah, I think that 6 wins on the season total is still kind of where I have them.
What are they at, 3 now?
Yeah. So you win 3 more games.
Yeah, I think 6 is fair.
Ish, around there.
Yeah. But honestly, I can't say where they'll probably at least one is. If they're going to get 6, they're going to have to get at least 1 from the line. It's probably 2 from the Lions. At least 1. They're going to have to beat the Falcons.
Maybe you get, that last Vikings game might not mean anything. So the Vikings might start their starters, giving you a better chance to win that one.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, the way they're running away with it, they might just be benching everybody, but, I don't know. All right. What do you want to move on to now?
Well, got to tell you, really frustrating few losses for the Bulls these past few days.
Yeah. I was really hoping they'd be able to pull that one out against the Sixers. And that was a tough one. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to expect out of this team. Like, what are my expectations supposed to be for the Bulls?
I mean, really right now, I see playing tournament team at best. When Zach LaVine is going to be in and out with the knee issue, it's hard for him to find some consistency. He was missed in San Antonio, and in San Antonio, you let a very winnable game slip away. Just really frustrating stuff. And, you have nights where some guys are on, some guys are off. Then the next night, Vucevic really struggled in San Antonio, and then he came back with a really nice game, and unfortunately was all for naught against Philadelphia. It doesn't feel like there's going to be any consistency here. And when you have the issues with Zach LaVine, that only adds on more frustrations, more issues, more challenges.
Yeah, it's their wins have been grimy wins. And it's just tough. They lack consistency. They lack continuity. And part of it is health related. Like you said, if Zach LaVine is not going to be able to play every day, or at least the consistency of most games, with veteran maintenance games off. And you don't, and who knows if you're going to have Lonzo Ball. It's just like, how do you expect to have this team compete with some of the elite teams?
Well, when you don't have a lot of the size that other teams in this conference do, That's going to be challenging when your 3-point shooting isn't consistent. That's going to make things more difficult. You can get away with it in some games, but when you're playing the best of the best, we saw it last year. You can't shoot the threes. You can't shoot the jumper well. You're not going to be able to get into the paint because bigger, stronger teams are going to take that away from you.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I'll say this. I think Andre Drummond so far has been a very nice addition. He's a better addition than I thought he would be at this point of his career. Same with Goran Dragic. But, again, that's with what everyone else in the conference added and how they got better. It's not going to be able to mask all of your issues.
The problem is that this team doesn't have the ammunition to get like problem solvers, elite players to come in and, level the playing field. So AK is doing what he can do. It's, all right, well, they really struggled rebounding last year. So they get Andre Drummond. We need a guy that can shoot. So we got Goran Dragic. Like you're just trying to plug holes with a guy that can do it, but not somebody that's elite. And with the salary cap that they have, and they're not bad enough to get into the lottery to get one of those elite players. And they don't have the cap flexibility to go out and get one of the elite players. So what do? You're just trying to build a cohesive team that can compete. And, you have so little room for error when that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's enough for you to beat those inferior teams. It's just you have no room for error whatsoever when you're playing the elite. I mean, look at the other night against Philadelphia. You had a chance to pull that win out, but when there was no room for error and you couldn't perfectly execute, you didn't win.
Yeah. And, and part of it, what's frustrating is you look at this team and you're like, all right, we've got to develop players. And you had Lauri Markkanen, and we're like, this is just not the dude. And he goes to Cleveland, and suddenly you're like, oh man, where was this dude when he played for the Bulls?
Well, you're in a better situation than those old Bulls teams were, in a system that fits you better. You're able to play to your strengths. That goes a long way.
Yeah, and you worry that's going to happen with Pat Williams.
Yeah,
We're just like, man, it's like he'll have like a flash one game. You're like, he had a nice game, but honestly, we keep talking about it. Is Pat Williams was that shot that the Bulls had to get a guy that could be the dude. And if Pat Williams was the dude and he was one of the alphas, this team would be so much better. They would be a competitor, but he's not. He hasn't developed. And, in that draft, there just wasn't a lot of dudes. And you had an early pick, but you just didn't have a pick to get one of the few dudes. And Pat Williams is just not developed. And every once in a while you see a flash in the pan. You're like, all right, can we see this every night? And he's not doing it. And somehow they've got to figure out a way to unlock Pat Williams. Levine, we know Levine is a star. DeMar DeRozan is a star, and a star who just joined the elite echelon of NBA all-time scorers. He just scored his 20,000th point. like in the history of the league, not too many guys have scored that many points.
No, it was a great accomplishment.
You've got a very solid center in Vooch. But if you could had a guy that Pat Williams could become a dude, then suddenly you're like, okay, this is a team that nobody wants to wrestle with because they could beat you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I think a lot of Bulls fans are on edge with Patrick Williams, because we want to see him become that guy, because him becoming that guy makes a huge difference in this conference where they're at. It makes a big difference whether he works out or not.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I just don't know if we're ever going to see it, at least consistently. And
I'm trying to give him the remainder of the year, but I think we at least have a right to kind of be somewhat concerned, or at least wondering.
But we've seen Larry Markkinen go on and do good things. We've seen Bobby Portis go on and do good things. Like it's just frustrating to see these guys go on and do good things. And you're like, why can't they do them here? Why can't they do those here?
Yeah, unfortunately, those regimes were just not effective at maximizing their potential. It's frustrating, and we don't want to, like you said, we don't want to see that happen again.
And least you're going to go up against your next game, I think, is Brooklyn, and that's a doo-doo team.
They are a dumpster fire right now. You can't lose to that team. I mean, they're in shambles right now. That team is in absolute shambles.
Yeah, and they've got an anti-Semitic player on their team that that hopefully the league sanctions him.
It's a disaster over there.
Yeah. So hopefully the Bulls can take advantage there. But they're not a bad team. They're just a team that hasn't found their footing yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully once at some point they take the training wheels off of Zach LaVine, and because I'm hearing that he's fine. They're being nervous Nellies on the team. And that's what I'm hearing. That there's nothing wrong. He's just the team is being a nervous Nelly because they put so much money that they don't want another Derrick Rose situation.
I mean, you sure hope that he's all right. It's going to be really concerning when you hear at any time, even if he's not missing a lot of time, even if you hear him having knee soreness. We know he's had multiple knee procedures in his career, very serious ones too. It always just makes you nervous when you hear about LaVine and his knees.
Yeah, but from what I'm hearing from my sources, he has, like, there's nothing going on physically. He's fine. He feels 100%. It's just the team is, out of abundance of caution, doesn't want to risk him getting hurt. But I think hopefully the team, they unclench their panty strings and let him play. Once he shows that he's fine. You just, they're going to need him. They need him in order to be a good team.
Right.
Ugh. Should move to Blackhawks a little bit.
Sure. Why don't we?
Are
They're
you
right
watching-
now 3-3 gridlocked with the Wild.
Yeah. I'm not watching that. I'm watching the Buffalo run all over the Packers.
Yeah, I've been watching most of the football game. I've been checking in on the Blackhawks. They've lost a few tough ones, but again, they're in these games. I mean, they almost were able to steal one against the Oilers in a really crazy penalty filled game, but bad pass by Tays. They scored. The Oilers did with like 30 seconds left in the game to break the tie. The Oilers last year at this point probably would have won that game like 6-0. But, the Hawks stayed in there. They tried to pull it out. They just couldn't at the end, but tough loss. They were in it. And then you lost in overtime to Buffalo. You did have a 3-1 lead in that game, so stinks losing that. But, they've outside of game one of the season against the defending champs, they've yet to get blown out. And they are scoring. They're not the biggest juggernaut, but they're scoring a lot better than I thought they would.
It's funny because we've said, we watched them in the preseason and that team could not score to save their lives. And you're like, oof, this is going to be a terrible season. And come the regular season, they're finding ways to score. And it's like, it's good on one hand. The other hand, it's, we sort of were expecting to tank to get better. And that's, Kyle Davidson sort of put together too good of a team to be too bad. I'm not going to say the Blackhawks have looked like a playoff team, but they have looked like the most competent team that we've seen in years.
Yeah, I think that the system is very well placed. The philosophy is really good. They don't quit. They're much more physical. They fight hard every night. I think that there's something to be said about losing close games when you have a roster like they do, because you could easily have a bad roster and a bad system. We saw it last year where you're just getting blown out every night. It's one thing to not have the talent. It's another thing to just not have any sort of effective system whatsoever. And I think the philosophy here, I said it last week on the show, I really, really like what Luke Richardson is doing with this team. I think that he is the right guy for this rebuild. The mentality, the approach, the physical approach, I like it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at them, the aggressive forechecking that Luke Richardson's systems brought, it's the system itself is letting these players play and be aggressive, and that's you're seeing good things come of it. And of course, I think we're going to have some sort of leveling off, because I don't think they have the horses, but the Blackhawks are doing what I thought the Bears would be doing this year, is even if they were losing, they were going to be competitive, and they really have been. I mean, you look against that Oilers game, the Oilers are really good. Mm-hmm. And it took a Connor McDavid, he had a hat trick.
Yes.
And there was 20 penalties in that game.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So it took a whole lot for a team that has far superior talent to beat the Blackhawks. And the Blackhawks are hanging in there. This is the penalty kill has been just an absolute beast. And it's just so much different than what we have seen last year, the year before, and the year before that. This is a team that you're like, hey, maybe we just need to add to this team. And this isn't there's those rebuilds where you just have, this is the bunch of has-beens and never will be's that are going to, hold us over until we're good. Like, it's starting to get you to think, hey, maybe this is the team and we just need to add to what we have right now.
Well, and we've seen some rebuilds take a really long time. And I think one of the reason for some of those longer rebuilds is the fact that teams just can't find that right coaching regime, because the NHL is very unforgiving. Coaches get fired seemingly all the time. I mean, they don't last long. The second you stop, if you're a successful coach and you're winning, you're going to the playoffs every year, you make a Stanley Cup run, the second you stop doing that, you're gone.
True. Absolutely.
That's just the unforgiving nature of the game. And I think that there have been teams that have been in a rebuild that have been struggling to find that right coaching staff. And it's not easy to do, especially if you're the coach of a rebuilding team that just doesn't have a lot of elite talent. But I think you look at the Blackhawks and say, okay, you see the approach. You like the approach. Even if they're going to lose a lot of games, they're going to lose games. They're going to lose plenty of games because it's how you lose those games. There's a big difference in getting killed 6-1 every night versus hard fought games. Even if some of the final scores don't necessarily look pretty, but you actually watch the games and you see how it unfolds, there's a big difference. And that's the kind of difference that a coaching staff can make.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's guys that they've brought in like Dickinson, who they essentially took his contract in order to get a draft pick.
Right.
And you're like, huh, he's actually playing super well.
He's done stuff. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he's a guy that lasts. No idea. But he's playing well now. He's thriving in the system that they have in place. And you're like, okay, all right. Like, that's the kind of things like you is make the best of the players you have. And that's what they're doing. This is like the bad news bears, but at the end of the season, when they're winning, like, this team doesn't have the superstars other than, I mean, Jonathan Taves is a former superstar.
Though he is playing pretty well this year so far.
He is, but he's there's been several years since the last time he was really good. So you really have one superstar on this team, and that's Patrick Kane. And you've had a lot of nobodies. And we'll see what they look like now when you have Seth Jones is going to be out for a month.
Yeah, that's a stinky break. That hurts. That's one of your better players right there.
I mean, you got to look at it from the silver lining of it is, one, it's going to give young defensemen a chance to come in and see what they can do. It's not a bad thing when you have no expectations of winning. Two is, if they lose, we're that much closer to getting Connor Bedard. Anytime the Blackhawks don't win, I go, like, when they win, I'm like, awesome, they won, good game. But when they lose, I go, awesome, we won a step towards Connor Bedard. And that's the way I'm getting through this season.
Yeah, exactly. You know what else is encouraging too is, I've mentioned this before, the draft board, even outside of Connor Bedard, there's a lot of talent on that board. So even if they don't get the number one pick, you want the number one overall pick. You want Connor Bedard more than anything, but there's some talented dudes that are going to be in this draft. So that's nice to know.
There are, but I think this draft is really like 4 dudes. Like, these are the dudes. Like there's talent, but there's like 4 dudes.
And if you get a top 4, then hopefully you get a dude.
Because right now, the Blackhawks first round pick is outside the lottery. And the pick they would get from Tampa would be the one that would be a chance of the lottery, but they would have a 0.5% chance of getting that number 1 pick, which is not good odds.
Right.
Yeah, I want them to have some serious odds of getting the that number 1 pick.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
It's just going to be tough because Anaheim is bad.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Arizona is bad. There's some good teams that are playing bad right now. Like Tampa's not playing well. Colorado's not playing well. But there's some bad teams. San Jose is bad.
Yep. We saw that a few weeks ago.
So I just did Tankathon, and 3 times in a row, Colorado got the number 1 pick.
The hell? Okay, it's early. They're off to a slower start. It's not going to last. It's early.
4 times in a row, Colorado.
Stop it. 20 times in a row. They got it again. 26, 27.
Wait, even worse. They just did it again. St. Louis gets it. What the hell?
Stop it.
Pittsburgh gets it. What? I don't want to see this. Like if Arizona gets it, poor Connor Bedard's just going to be stuck in mediocrity there. But Nashville, what the hell, Tankathon?
I think the person operating Tankathon hacked it. He's like, hey, I'm going to troll Meatball Sean Hopman.
Like, they're like, we'll make Detroit get it next. They don't even they're not even in the lottery, but they're going to get it anyway.
They're laughing like Dr. Evil.
But I mean, you know, this Blackhawk team is a well-coached team, and you can't knock. They're going above and beyond the talent level that they have.
Yep. There's 1 minute 15, by the way, left in regulation.
Yeah, I'm starting to stream it now.
I'm kind of going back and forth between the Bills-Packers game and the Blackhawks game.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put it on my phone so I have the screen. So I have it both. Why aren't the Blackhawks one of the featured? Is it not on NBC Sports?
It is.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
1 minute remaining in the period. 1 minute.
Tree and a turd.
Wow, actually, it's if you look at the score right now, it's tree, and in between tree, Minnesota has tree shots in the turd.
In the turd.
Unfortunately, the Blackhawks 26 shots ruins the 3-3-3s, the trees. But hey, a lot of trees. So we got a minute left here. We're going to end our podcast in a little hockey play-by-play as we update here as we go along. I also realized too today that Minnesota still has Marc-Andre Fleury.
Huh.
He was in goal tonight too.
Like Marc-Andre Fleury. Never a bad thing to say about him.
No, and it was fun that he got that milestone win last year in a Hawks uniform. Third winningest goaltender, I believe. Second or third, behind Brodeur. I think it's him. The top three is him, Wah, and Brodeur in wins. And we go to overtime.
So you've been watching the World Series at all?
Yes, I did see the incredible comeback by the Phillies in game one.
So my wife is a Phillies fan, so it has been on in my house at loud volumes. So I've been keeping up a lot with it, and this would have been a series that I probably wouldn't have cared much about otherwise. But Kyle Schwarber is a dude.
Yeah, he is. I love that dude.
But I just don't see the Phillies having the horses to pull this out.
We'll see. I mean, here, like, if they didn't come back in game one, if the Phillies were down 0-2, I'm thinking, yeah, I just don't see them having much of a chance. Just the way this team has defied the odds so much. My money would still lean towards the Astros on their talent, but I don't know. I think this could be an interesting series going forward. I'm curious to see how the Phillies respond going home. It's like, all right, you split on the road. Really, a split is good for them, considering the circumstances. Going home, tied 1-1. We'll see what happens. Have the Phillies lost a home game yet this postseason? I don't think they have.
I don't think they have. But the pitching matchup is going to be McCullers versus Syndergaard. I don't know if that's the matchup if you're the Phillies that you want.
If they were able to get Mets Syndergaard, that would be something, but I don't think he has as much of that capability anymore, though he is still a pretty solid pitcher.
Oh, I'm not saying he's definitely put up some numbers for him, and his postseason numbers are great.
Yeah, they are.
1.69 ERA, but I just the starting pitching, like, if you're the Phils, you are a two pitcher team for the most part, and you roll the odds with everybody else in your rotation for postseason rotation.
You know what's crazy is, as great of a career as Justin Verlander has had, his World Series numbers are not good.
You know what? When they got to him, his stuff was great. They just battled him.
Yeah, they did. I mean, first time around, they couldn't touch him. Second time around, like you said, they battled.
It was there was nothing that he did wrong. It wasn't he was missing. They just battled. And even, like all the starting pitchers, like in those games, the guys getting opposite field base hits off of what should have been broken bats or ground outs. That just like, you're like, man, just fluky things that are, and then who knows what would happen last night if Schwarber hits that home run.
Yeah, that was just foul by a few feet.
Well, then when the next one is the guy jumped over the wall to take it away.
Yeah, that too.
It was inches either one of them, and suddenly I think the Phillies are right back in that game. I think at that point was they down 2, but it's just that Astros team is a damn juggernaut.
Yeah, I mean, they got that lineup up and down. They know when to get on base. They know when to put the ball in play. They know when to hit for power. They are accomplished at doing everything when they need to. When they need to take a walk, they take a walk. When they need to hit for power, they'll slug the ball. If they just need to shorten up, put it in play, they'll shorten up and put it in play. It's pretty remarkable how consistently good they are at doing all those things.
And when they need to bang on a garbage can lid, they bang on a garbage can lid.
As hard as you can.
I saw a rumor that the Dodgers are going to go hard for Carlos Correa. And I'm like,
Yeah.
how are the fans going to take that one?
That'll be interesting. I'll be kind of pissed because I want the Cubs to get him, but it kind of makes you think, okay, either they re-sign Turner, they get Correa, the Dodgers do, then you could try to go after the other one, because I've said before, I'll take Correa or Turner on the Cubs happily. But yeah, that would be pretty interesting to see how that would play out.
I know. The Dodger fans would not let that one go.
No. They're not going to forget that one ever.
No, that is so like it would be interesting if they brought him over. But as far as you're right, the I would love to see either Trey Turner or Carlos Correa as a Cub. Hell, I would be fine with Xander Bogaerts. I don't know if I want Dansby Swanson.
No. Career OPS plus a 98. No.
I mean,
he's a hell of a glove, and he had a nice year last year, but if you're going to pay a shit ton of money for a shortstop, you want a fielder and a hitter. I mean,
if you're like, he could be the difference maker for certain teams, but the Cubs are looking for a shortstop mostly for that bopper bat, and Dansby Swanson's not it, and he's going to get paid. I honestly, to be honest with you, he probably goes back to Atlanta.
I'm kind of thinking that as well.
But I want either Trey Turner or Carlos Correa.
Right. And I think Dansby Swanson fits in really nice in Atlanta, and he's certainly far from a bad player, but you get a decent hitter versus an elite one in Turner or Correa. You want that elite one.
Definitely. Honestly, would Dansby Swanson be a bad option in Los Angeles?
Not the worst. You could do better, but not the worst.
I don't know. I'm wondering if Xander Bogaerts goes back to Boston.
I would like Xander Bogaerts. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
But any of those three, I'm okay with.
Yeah, me too.
I'm looking at the catchers in free agency. Did Molina announce he's retiring, or is he just not going to?
He's retiring. So, yeah.
I'm not talking about bringing him to the Cubs by any stretch. I was just
no. I know. I'm just saying.
He just listed as a free agent.
Yeah. He's done.
I mean, yeah, like the list of catchers is not very good.
No, I think Christian Vasquez is one of the more bigger names. I think, outside of Wilson Contreras, Hedges, Vasquez,
Martin Maldonado, but he's old.
He's a good catcher when it comes to handling the ball and working with pitching staffs, but you're not going to sign him to be like, okay, we need you to be an offensive guy, because he's not. If you were to sign him to a backup role, that's fine, but you already have Yan Gomes, so you don't really want. Unless you say, you know what, we're going to do what the Astros and a bunch of other teams are doing now. We're just going to value the catcher position for being a catcher, and we're going to have all 8 other guys be good hitters, and then you just be our 9 quote unquote pitcher hitter, so to speak.
I mean, that's really what teams are moving towards now. If you could get a guy that does both, obviously that's a bonus, but I think that's the route the Cubs are going to go, is just finding a a good catcher and don't care about what he brings offensively.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there.
They could bring in your boy Williams Ostadillo.
Sure.
But I don't know. World Series has been fun. It's, it is clearly a David and Goliath situation, but David's actually pretty damn good too.
Yeah, it's true.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. It's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan.
She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing